All right, let's take a look at the running backs, and this list is a doozy. We start with Ameer Abdullah, Raiders running back against the Chiefs. He's 75% available. Here's the situation right now with the Raiders' backfield. Zamir White's dealing with the quad. Alexander Madison is dealing with the ankle. They did not practice or play last week, so keep an eye on the status for both. This is the Black Friday game, Jay. The Raiders-Chiefs, not a great matchup for Ameer Abdullah, but in theory, he's a guy that should catch passes for you in a PPR format, and he caught another touchdown in Week 12.
Yeah, well, and this is the thing with Ameer Abdullah is that the team just isn't very good at the moment. They're 13-point dogs against Kansas City, so you would expect that he's going to be in situations where he can just PPR scam his way, as he did last week, where he played 88% of the snaps. He goes 5 for 37 and then a touchdown. Like, this is very fantasy viable. Ameer Abdullah is the personification of the gap between real-life football and fantasy football because of this PPR value.
1,000%. Again, it's not a great matchup against the Chiefs. No team allows fewer fantasy points to opposing running backs, but got 6 targets last week as well, Abdullah did. And so, again, wait to see on the status of Zamir White and Alexander Madison. It's worth noting that in Week 14, they play the Buccaneers. Feels like if nothing else, he's probably earned a little bit of a larger share. You have Scott and Norv Turner calling the plays there, so there's some variance there as well. They may just say, like, hey, it wasn't working with those 2 guys before, now that we got in charge, so maybe we'll just try to get Ameer Abdullah some more run here in their new look offense under Aiden O'Connell. What an offense.
New look offense.
It's a Michael Vick's first go-around with Chip Kelly. Real revolution.
Yeah. They're doing what they can. It's a little bit of rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, but, they're doing you do the best you can with the gig you got. How about Jeremy McNichols? Austin Eckler, just an awful concussion. That looked bad. He's in the concussion protocol. Doesn't look like he'll be ready this week for Tennessee. Brian Robinson in and out of the game as well against the Cowboys, injured. So if both those guys can't go, and honestly, even if Robinson can go but Eckler can't, they like multiple guys. They'll use Jeremy McNichols as well. Now, it's not a great matchup against Tennessee that allows the 5th fewest rushing yards per game to opposing running backs, but volume should get you there. McNichols a nice pass catcher as well. They'll try to use different things with him as well. They might, if Robinson and Eckler miss, I think it'll be McNichols and Chris Rodriguez, who's been on the practice squad up and down a lot for Washington. Now, he was waived on Saturday. He's not currently on the practice squad for Washington, but assuming he clears waivers, which I think he will, my guess is Washington will re-sign him to the practice squad. There's a chance he's up on Sunday against the Titans.
Another player that could be in for an elevated role would be Gus Edwards against the Falcons, who's 74% available because the Chargers are now dealing with the J.K. Dobbins injury after he left in the second quarter last night with the knee injury. Jay, obviously the Gus bus would be the guy if J.K. can't go.
Yeah, and Kamani Vidal is also an interesting speculative ad just to see how that backfield shakes out. But this is all about the availability of J.K. Dobbins. Didn't look great, and he kind of bent back. It looked, we don't know what it is, and there was no update from Harbaugh after the game. But the fact that he couldn't come back in such a close game after he'd started so well, too. He's just really carried on from that final run to beat the Bengals in that Sunday Night Football game. But Gus Edwards comes in. He looks like the guy. He didn't do anything outside of score the touchdown, really. But
just a story of his kind of fantasy relevance.
Yeah,
exactly right. And I think that they will run it if they do get in close. But look, this Chargers offense it's a really solid offense. Yeah. Herbert is playing at a really high level. They go up against the Falcons team that is not particularly scary and just got completely eviscerated by Bo Nix. Chargers are 1.5-point favorites in Atlanta. That shows you where the Falcons are at right now. That coming off a bye, a short week for the Chargers still favorites.
Traveling on a short week, all across country to Atlanta as well. The only thing I want to mention here, we're mentioning Gus Edwards just, to sort of be comprehensive here because Dobbins, and there's a chance that Gus Edwards is starting running back next week, especially if you have Dobbins. But it's worth noting, look at the rest of their schedule after this. At Atlanta, then they're at Kansas City, home to Tampa Bay, home to Denver. So, honestly, only that Buccaneers game after this week that you feel great about. And then also, yes, Kamani Vidal, when Gus Edwards was out for a couple of games, Kamani Vidal worked as the number 2 with J.K. Dobbins, but we saw Hassan Haskins, and Haskins has been getting more run for the Chargers as well. So don't really know how, again, you think about Greg Roman, who likes to use multiple running backs, or at least certainly did at Baltimore. Gus Edwards would be the one guy that you feel good about until you see something, right? Kamani Vidal, we've got that one wheel route.
Right. We'll always remember it, though.
We'll always remember that one.
Man, it was awesome.
It was awesome.
Everybody's
but I'm just
shook the fantasy world.
Yeah.
The other thing,
But
too, is these
I
teams coming up, like Atlanta, KC, Tampa, these are all teams that have been lit up through the air recently.
Right.
Not
Yeah, pass funnels,
Kansas City are the ultimate pass funnel defense at the moment. Tampa Bay feels they've been a pass funnel for years. So it's not ideal in terms of the matchups, and also he's just, like he's Gus Edwards, he's not the best running back in the world.
I just want to quickly just talk about just because we've talked about Week 14 so much. Here's just a couple of matchups that I think are interesting in Week 14. Again, 2 weeks from now, when you've got 6 teams on a bye, that you want to, as you head to waivers tonight and look in your league to see, like Raiders are playing the Buccaneers, the Eagles are playing the Panthers in that game. The Titans are playing the Jaguars, as we mentioned, right? The Giants and Saints get to play each other. Steelers are playing the Browns. That's sort of interesting. Cardinals, Seahawks in that game. So just some of those are some of the Vikings, Vikings are playing the Falcons. Again, we don't feel great about Atlanta these days as well. So just those are some kind of interesting matchups that I think. But again, it's all league specific. The point is that look ahead to Week 14 as you're making look at your roster in Week 14 and then look who's available in your league and try to get ahead of it tonight.
Let's look at the top insurance running backs available in 50% of leagues right now. Jordan Mason, obviously, an insurance option for McCaffrey. Braylon Allen, an insurance option for Brees. Zach Charbonnet, an insurance option for Kenneth Walker. If you have the big running backs, you'd like to have their backups. Tyler Algier fits the bill. Roshan Johnson, more available. Kenneth Gainwell. If you have Saquon, Jalen Wright has taken over Raheem Mostert's role, Matthew, so he becomes kind of notable. Ray Davis, who we've seen have flashes throughout his rookie year behind Cook. Blake Corum, if you have Kyron Williams, and Trey Benson, who has gotten some looks behind James Conner.
Yeah, and again, as we talk about, we're heading towards the playoffs. So this is about, especially in a week, if you feel like you're actually in pretty good shape for Week 14, and you're looking at your team and you're like, obviously you don't really have needs this week. So again, this is all about fortifying your roster for a playoff run. And you're no longer worried about like, hey, let me take a flyer on this backup running back and hope he pops, right? This is about fortifying what you've got right now. So if you've got the starter of a bunch of those guys, like I would want to make sure, if I have Chris McCaffrey, I would rather have Jordan Mason on my team than Ray Davis, right? Even though if something happens to Cook, Ray Davis would be like a top 12 fantasy running back, I'd rather make sure I solidify the 49ers running back for my team than have Ray Davis without James Cook and hope that, maybe there's a chance Ray Davis pops. Like, this is about fortifying what you have. One other name not on the list that I want to mention here is Emmanuel Wilson of the Green Bay Packers. Again, that Packers game Thursday night, Matt LaFleur mentioning the fact that he might get more run on Thursday night because Jacobs had such a big workload on Sunday in that home win against the 49ers that you might see, again, now they're playing Thursday night, the Thursday night game, right, against Miami. They're home to Miami. You might see Emmanuel Wilson get some more run just to try to take, that's a short turnaround for a running back that got as much work as Jacobs did on Sunday.
Some quarterback.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.